Presidente del Summit, Vice-Presidente del Gobierno, assembled dignitaries, WTTC members, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real honor to be here with you today, and I apologize that I'm not going to be practicing my Spanish on you, so today is the opportunity for you to practice your English. This event is quickly becoming established as one of the most important events in the global calendar. Why? Because it's a topical subject. It deals with one of the fastest growing parts of the travel industry and a fundamental reason why people travel. This is visible the world over and comes in many forms. Think about the Chinese, 130 million outbound visitors now shopping around the world. The European airlines advertising Christmas bazaars in Germany. The eternal appeal of the bazaars in Marrakesh. And every major city centre development in the world includes now a major retail component in its destination. And partly this is done for the citizens of that country, and partly for attracting tourists from around the world to spend money in that particular city. In this sense, it's a perfect illustration of the role that travel and tourism plays in driving economic growth and creating jobs. This year, despite a variety of terrorist attacks and natural disasters, as an industry will grow 3.1%, exactly the same growth rate as 2015. And that's despite all the disruptions we have been seeing. Growing at 3.1% is almost 1% ahead of the global economy, which should finish this year at around 2.2%. That shows us this industry is extraordinarily resilient, and people are not going to be put off traveling by isolated terrorist attacks. This year, our sector will account for 10% of the world's GDP, once all the direct and indirect impacts are taken into account. We will contribute 1 in 11 jobs on the planet, $800 billion of investment in the form of airports, seaports, road and rail. And China in the next 3 years is going to be investing another $723 billion, creating another 40 new airports and doubling the amount of high-speed rail network. So you can see we are an industry that's very vibrant and continuing to grow. Our research shows that we employ in our industry more than the automotive manufacturing sector, more than mining, more than financial services combined. Worldwide, the companies and organizations that make up our sector employ 7 times more than the automotive manufacturing center. These are extraordinary numbers which demonstrate the huge importance of travel and tourism in creating jobs around the world. It confirms that our sector is one of the biggest contributors to global GDP, and it's forecast to continue to outpace the global economy over the next few years. Here in Spain, as we've already heard, it's the same story. Travel and tourism supports around 3 million jobs. That's almost 16% of total employment here, or 1 in every 6 jobs, by the way we look at it. Our sector directly provides more than twice as many jobs as the financial services sector in this country. And money spent by tourists was over half of Spain's exports. Most of you know that the research by UNWTO shows that around 68 million international tourists came to Spain in 2015. It's the 3rd highest country in the world for receiving visitors, and it continues to grow. It was one of the main reasons, with the support of our members here, that we held our global summit in Madrid last April. And at that global summit, we covered a range of issues, and of course, shopping tourism was one of those. We heard from the retail operators how shopping is becoming the determining factor in destination choice for many travelers, and how destinations have the opportunity to define an authentic and unique experience for those shoppers, which reinforces and even defines their own brand. The shopping tourism clearly offers tremendous opportunities, as it's becoming a key driver for the overall travel and tourism industry. For WTTC, we campaign on many things, but there are 3 specifics. Freedom to travel is the right for anybody to travel anywhere at any time. It's the freedom for people to travel without visas or with visa waiver programs or electronic visa processing. 61% of those that travel internationally, of those 1.2 billion passengers, still have to fill out a paper form, still have to queue in the rain outside of a consulate, still have to have a stamp in the passport. We are talking to the Chinese government, the Indian government, the Brazilian government, to persuade them to put in place electronic visa processing. That is the best way to stimulate inbound tourism to a country, along with the marketing spend. We've watched what's been happening in the United States with the election of President Trump. Now, we have to think about what the impact's going to be on our particular interesting. So campaigning is one thing, but taking office and executing is, I hope, a different matter. Mr. Trump's background in hospitality and leisure industry will give him many insights into the importance of our sector for generating jobs and growth. He's made important statements about infrastructure, airports, roads, rail, all of which will be beneficial for this industry. And we have to remember that when President Obama took office, it took about 2 years for the industry to educate his team about travel and tourism. And finally, when he understood it, he gave his executive order to fix visa processing, to establish visa waiver programs, to create Brand USA, and finally to have machine-readable technology on arrival in the airports. That was a huge shift driven by the private sector chief executives in the United States. But I think as we see things develop with the Trump organization, some of the more campaigning statements he's made, hopefully, will not come through in reality. So we encourage governments, and a second theme for us is to pursue policies which create the right business environment for travel and tourism to thrive. This means creating tax regimes which are not overly burdensome on the industry. Tourism is taxed more highly than many other sectors in different parts of the world. We are an easy target for government taxation. But it also means building infrastructure and planning for the future. And the governments which are focused on long-term infrastructure build to absorb the growth of people who are going to want to travel in the future, those are the governments that have the most success in creating jobs in our industry. I guess the other policy question which people want to talk about today regarding the travel sector is Brexit. Britain is the fourth biggest travel economy in the world. The UK and EU are very important markets for each other's travel and tourism sectors. So both sides have a financial incentive to ensure a long-term arrangement. But that's not going to be easy. There are around 120 laws that need to be opened up and looked at and renegotiated. Even if and when Article 50 is triggered, it will take some years of negotiation, much more than 2 years, to finally put things in place. It took Canada 7 years to negotiate a trade agreement with the European Community, and even that was nearly blocked by Wallonia at the last minute. For us in travel and tourism, there are 5 key issues with Brexit. First of all is the overall shape of the trade deal. The second is freedom of movement of labour, which is so important in the hotel industry. Have a visa-free environment. The fourth is open skies. And the fifth is security and counterintelligence sharing, which is so important in these days of terrorism. So it's clear the UK government has stated that UK will be leaving the European Community, but it's not clear, it's not simple, and there are lots of legal battles ahead of us. And the third area for us is sustainability. Our sector will grow around 4% on average, which means that by 2035, the number of international travellers will have doubled to around 2 billion, with billions more travelling domestically. And this means that we all have a responsibility for safeguarding the environment and ensuring that the growth of our industry is managed sustainably and responsibly. When we look into the future, there are probably 3 big industry issues for us to come to terms with. The first is climate change and managing within this 2-degree world. The second is around destination management. With the volumes of people that want to travel, how do we manage destinations effectively to absorb that growth? And the third is how do we continue to cope with disruptions, whether they are political change, terrorist attacks, or indeed natural disasters. So we're not alone in all of this. Public and private sector, whether it's globally, WTTC and the World Tourism Organization, whether it's country by country with private sector businesses working with the government. The most important thing is to work inside those partnerships to nurture that sustainable long-term growth, because that's what we all want. That ambition rings true across the whole of the travel and tourism sector. So to this audience, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for the invitation to come, and thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your part in ensuring that shopping tourism plays that really important role in bringing people together and putting a smile on people's faces and creating jobs right across the globe. Thank you very much.